You know that feeling when you are sitting on your couch, totally safe, the doors are locked, watching a pleasant show, but suddenly your heart is just racing like there is a tiger in the room.
Oh, yeah, like that massive physiological alarm system triggering when there's absolutely no fire, no intruder, no actual danger in your physical environment.
Right. It's just this purely internal spike of raw anxiety.
Exactly.
And have you ever wondered why that happens? Like why your body physically prepares for combat when you were just, sitting in a living room?
It makes no logical sense.
None at all. So today we are doing a deep dive directly into the actual biological wiring inside the human head to answer that. We are cutting through the noise of cultural opinions, political debates, and shifting ideologies to find the absolute immutable truths of human behavior.
Yeah, and we're pulling from a really fascinating dialogue discussing the Time Traveler's Paradox series. The central premise revolves around three main pillars: neuroscience, evolutionary biology, and the blank slate theory.
Yep.
And it uses those as the ultimate blueprints for understanding why human society functions and dysfunctions the way it does.
Okay, let's unpack this. Humanity keeps trying to build a better society, right? But we almost always base our blueprints on things that constantly change.
Yeah, we use like moral opinions or philosophies, economic theories.
Exactly. And those are completely a product of their specific environment. What is considered an undeniable moral truth in one part of the world, or, in one century, is often seen as completely absurd in another.
What's fascinating here is the search for what the source calls the only rope that doesn't move.
I love that phrase.
It's so good, right? Because when a society is drowning in contradictory cultural beliefs, grabbing onto another subjective opinion won't pull anyone out. A foundation built on popular opinion is just fundamentally unstable.
Yeah, if you build a society on the values of the 1800s, it totally fractures in the 1900s when the cultural consensus shifts.
Right, it guarantees systemic failure because the ground is always moving.
So if opinions are just shifting sands, we desperately need concrete. And that concrete isn't going to be found in, like, a philosophy seminar.
No, definitely not.
It's found under a microscope. It's found in a functional MRI scanner. We have to look at the literal biological mechanics of the human brain.
Because the brain is no longer this mysterious, unknowable black box. I mean, we have mapped how it develops, how it adapts, and crucially, the precise chemical mechanisms it uses to react to its environment.
We're finally moving from abstract ideas about human nature to undeniable physical realities.
Really?
And I really want to get into the specific biological facts here because these chemicals are like the invisible strings pulling on all of us. Let's look at dopamine, for example.
Oh, dopamine is so misunderstood.
Right. It often gets casually tossed around as just the happy chemical, but it's actually it's the brain's reward prediction circuitry.
Yeah, it fires for anticipation, for novelty, and for social comparison.
It's the neurochemical driver of motivation. Dopamine doesn't spike when you achieve a goal, it spikes when you are anticipating the achievement.
Which explains so much. That's why the satisfaction of getting what you want is so incredibly fleeting. The dopamine literally drops off the moment you actually acquire the thing.
It's just gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
And when you factor in social comparison, like looking at someone else's life and feeling a sudden pang of jealousy or desire, that is a mechanical, chemical process. It's dopamine driving you to secure your status relative to your peers.
Wow. And then we have the amygdala, right, our threat detector.
Right, the alarm bell.
Yeah, and it doesn't just process physical fear, it processes perceived threats and a profound sense of scarcity. When you feel like there isn't enough to go around, whether that's money, food, or even like social validation, your amygdala is just lighting up.
It shifts your brain entirely out of rational thought and straight into survival mode.
Which is terrifying when you think about it.
It is. And then consider mirror neurons. These are the neural pathways that fire not only when you perform an action, but when you simply observe someone else performing it or experiencing an emotion.
So it's basically copying them.
Literally, physically simulating the other person's state within your own brain.
Yeah.
This is the hardwired physiological basis of empathy.
Wait, so empathy isn't just something we learned?
No, it proves empathy isn't just a high-minded moral concept we invented, It's a reflex built into our hardware.
Which is why you instinctively flinch when you see someone else take a hard fall in a video. It's a biological simulation.
Exactly.
We also have oxytocin, the bonding chemical that promotes trust and social cohesion. But the mechanism that really forces a reevaluation of how we live, I think, is cortisol.
Oh, the stress hormone.
Yeah, because when cortisol is chronically elevated, it is literally neurotoxic. It physically shrinks the hippocampus.
The mechanism there is brutal, to be honest. Prolonged exposure to high levels of cortisol overstimulates the neurons in the hippocampus, which is the area of the brain responsible for memory consolidation and emotional regulation.
So it's a vital area.
Extremely.
Right.
And to protect themselves from this toxic overstimulation, those neurons actually retract their dendrites.
Wait, really? They shrink?
They physically shrink. Chronic stress causes physical deterioration of the organ that allows you to process information and learn.
That is insane. So designing human civilization without understanding these specific chemical mechanisms is, well, it's like designing an internal combustion engine without understanding thermodynamics.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Right. If you don't know how heat expands or what a spark plug does, the engine explodes.
And that's what we do. We build massive global economic systems without understanding how the dopamine system drives this insatiable, never-ending loop of desire.
Yeah, we build hyper-competitive educational and corporate environments without accounting for how chronic stress and cortisol are literally destroying the neuroplasticity of the people trapped inside them.
We create social hierarchies that constantly trigger the amygdala's deep-seated fear of scarcity.
And the result is exactly what we see around us every day, a
Mhm.
population that is increasingly anxious, exhausted, and just totally unfulfilled.
Right, the machine of our society isn't actually broken.
It is functioning exactly as it was built.
Exactly. The underlying problem is that it was never designed to be compatible with human biology in the first place.
Because the biology is utterly indifferent to social status.
Yes. Cortisol damages the hippocampus of an elite billionaire, the exact same way it damages the hippocampus of a struggling factory worker.
Wow, yeah.
The biological response to chronic stress is universal. It is the rope that doesn't move. The suffering is distributed across all levels of society because the mismatch is systemic.
But, you know, understanding that chemical fuel, the dopamine, the cortisol, the oxytocin, that only gets us halfway there.
Right.
If we want to understand why the brain reacts so violently to these specific modern triggers, we have to look at biological history. We have to look at how this machine was actually constructed.
This is where evolutionary mismatch
Mm.
becomes the crucial lens for the whole discussion.
Oh, for sure.
Because the brain you are using to process this conversation right now was not designed for the modern world. It was forged over hundreds of thousands of years in environments of extreme scarcity, constant physical threat, and tight-knit tribal groups of maybe 150 people.
So your brain is essentially an ancient survival tool.
Total.
It makes me think of putting the wrong fuel into an engine. Like imagine taking a massive, heavy-duty diesel engine built for slow, grueling work in a harsh, freezing environment. It's tough, it's resilient, it does one thing perfectly.
Okay, follow.
Now, imagine dropping that exact same engine into a lightweight Formula One car, filling it with highly refined jet fuel, and forcing it to run at 1,000 miles an hour on a paved track.
Oh, the engine is going to just tear itself apart.
Right.
The RPMs will go out of control, it will overheat, and the internal components will literally snap. The hardware was simply not engineered to process the environment you are forcing it to navigate.
And when these ancient primal instincts violently collide with the modern world, the results are catastrophic. Think about our ancestral drive to hoard resources.
Oh, this is a big one.
Yeah. In a Pleistocene hunter-gatherer society facing a brutal winter, hoarding calories and primitive tools was the only way to survive. There was no such thing as too much, because scarcity was the default state of existence.
And the people who didn't possess that hoarding instinct simply died out. So that drive is deeply encoded into our DNA.
It's hardwired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today, you take that exact same biological instinct, remove all the environmental constraints, and drop it into a world of global economies, abstract digital wealth, and supermarkets.
And suddenly, you have individuals hoarding resources they couldn't spend in 1,000 lifetimes, yet they still feel this irrational, biologically driven urge to acquire more.
Because the environment changed, but the instinct didn't.
That is so wild. And consider our hypersensitivity to social status. In a small, ancient tribe, losing status wasn't just like a blow to your ego. It meant exile.
And exile meant death.
You would freeze, starve, or be eaten.
Yeah, your brain fundamentally treats a drop in social status as a literal life-or-death emergency. The HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, triggers the exact same biological panic response to social rejection as it does to a physical predator.
So a tiger jumping out of the bushes is the same as getting laughed at by the tribe.
Chemically, yes. Now put that ancient brain on social media. A perceived slight, a lack of engagement, being publicly criticized by complete strangers, your amygdala fires as if you were about to be exiled into the wilderness to die.
Your body is literally dumping cortisol into your bloodstream over pixels on a screen.
It's madness.
We also have this profound fear of the unfamiliar. In ancestral times, the unfamiliar usually meant a rival tribe competing for scarce resources or, a new predator. Fear kept you alive.
But today, that deeply ingrained survival mechanism is so easily hijacked. Media and political structures can manipulate that ancient circuitry to make us terrified of people who are just slightly different from us.
Artificially triggering that tribal defense mechanism.
Exactly. There's a brilliant synthesis of this in the source material. It says, evolution explains the engine. Neuroscience explains the fuel. Together, they explain the crash.
Wow. That perfectly articulates why the finish line for success always feels like it's moving further away.
Because your ancient engine doesn't possess a biological concept of enough. It only knows more, because for hundreds of thousands of years, more was the actual margin of survival.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Go for it.
If our basic hardware and our basic survival drives are ancient, if we are running on this diesel engine, as we said, where do our highly specific modern desires come from? Cavemen were not having panic attacks about diversifying their stock portfolios or securing a corner office.
No, they definitely were not.
Right. So to understand that, we have to look at the software that gets loaded onto the hard drive. We have to separate what is biologically innate from what is culturally learned.
The blank slate.
Exactly. No child comes out of the womb wanting a luxury car. No child is born with racial prejudice, with religious doctrine, or with the belief that their fundamental worth as a human being is measured by economic output.
All of those metrics are learned. The installation process of this software is entirely dictated by the surrounding environment.
So it just downloads it.
Yeah, it is downloaded from parents, educational systems, media consumption, and the overarching culture. And the critical factor here is timing.
It's like an automatic download during early development, right?
Yes, the subconscious mind is incredibly plastic during childhood. It absorbs these cultural values, these specific definitions of success and worth, long before the prefrontal cortex, which is the conscious, rational, critical thinking part of the brain, is fully mature.
But it's defenseless.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
By the time a person is capable of critically evaluating whether these societal values actually make sense, the operating system is already running the machine.
The implication of this is just staggering to me. Once these values are successfully installed, they do not feel like software to the individual. They feel like immutable laws of reality.
Oh, absolutely.
If you are raised in a culture that explicitly ties your human worth to your constant productivity, you will feel real, agonizing, biological, pain-like, measurable cortisol spikes if you take a day off.
You will think it's a law of physics that you must always be working.
But it's not.
It is just code. And the most liberating property of software is that it can be rewritten. We are not permanently doomed to run malicious or outdated cultural code.
Because of moral plasticity, right?
Exactly. The brain's physical ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life means we can adapt. But that adaptation requires us to first recognize the difference between our biological hardware and our cultural software.
I get that, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. Doesn't looking at the human experience purely through this lens feel a bit, cold? Well, are we really just reducing all of human art, our capacity for deep love, our complex history, down to ancient hardware, chemical fuel, and environmental software? Doesn't breaking it down to biological mechanics somehow diminish the poetry of what it means to be human?
I hear that a lot. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, science doesn't diminish the human experience. It provides profound clarity.
Oh, okay. Clarity.
Yeah, it explains the mechanics of why you suffer, why you love so deeply, why you are driven to create art. Understanding that your capacity for empathy is physiologically driven by mirror neurons doesn't make your compassion less beautiful.
I guess that's true.
It makes it infinitely more profound because it means we are literally biologically built to connect with each other. We are wired for shared experience.
So it's not the enemy of meaning, it's the map that actually helps you find it.
Exactly. And grounding our beliefs in physical reality is crucial for long-term survival. Holding on to a belief system or a societal structure that directly contradicts biological evidence isn't faith. It is delusion.
A civilization built on delusion will inevitably collapse under the weight of physical reality.
Always.
You can't legislate away gravity, and you cannot outculture biology. When economic or social systems force humans to act against their biological imperatives for too long, the system fractures. The human animal, driven by its underlying biology, will eventually break down or rebel.
So what does this all mean?
Yeah, where do we go from here?
Well, when we look at everything we've unpacked, the shifting sands of cultural ideology, the hard science of our chemical fuel, the evolutionary mismatch of our ancient brains, and the rewritable software of our environment, the path forward actually becomes pretty clear.
Right, because the massive, seemingly intractable problems we face as a species, systemic burnout, extreme inequality, rampant anxiety, they are not caused by a lack of intelligence.
No, we aren't failing because we lack the cognitive capacity to solve problems.
And they aren't caused by a lack of resources either. I mean, the planet produces enough to meet biological needs.
They are caused by societal systems aggressively ignoring human biology. Therefore, the solution will not be found by simply electing a new leader or inventing another abstract political ideology or even necessarily creating a new technology.
The solution requires self-awareness on a species-wide level.
We have to change the systems to align with the brain. If we definitively know that the human brain requires psychological safety, oxytocin-driven connection, and a sense of purpose to thrive, we have to consciously design our schools, our workplaces, and our communities to generate those specific conditions.
We have to stop designing environments that constantly trigger the amygdala and flood the population with cortisol. We can actually change our outcomes through biological awareness and intentional design.
It is the necessary shift from accidental, blind evolution to conscious, deliberate evolution.
Wow. To you, listening right now, I want you to really reflect on what we've covered today. Look at your own life, your daily routines, your specific anxieties, how much of your behavior, your relentless drive for certain things, and your own internal suffering is being shaped by biological wiring and environmental software you never actually chose to install.
There is a core haunting question at the center of all this that the source poses. If the brain is the engine of absolutely everything you do, are you driving it or is it driving you?
Since we know with absolute certainty that the brain's software is highly adaptable through neuroplasticity, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over today. Think critically about the information you consume, the people you surround yourself with, and the environments you place yourself in. What specific code are you actively choosing to feed your brain today, knowing it will physically rewire your operating system for tomorrow? Because remember that feeling of sitting on the couch, totally safe, but feeling like a tiger is in the room. The alarm system might be ancient, but you get to choose what sets it off. Until next time, keep diving deep.